Good afternoon, everybody. The red light is on. We are live. Yours truly, Elle Dawson, here with Bo Nickal himself. How you doing, Bo?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to chat a little bit.
Of course, of course. We love having you on. Guys, Bo is fighting. You're fighting May 3rd in Des Moines, Iowa. So Iowa is a wrestling country. Like, how awesome is that you get to be in the Midwest for the UFC?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Originally, my plan after my last fight was to get a fight, hopefully February or March. And then I saw the card in Miami in April, and I was like, oh, that'd be fun to get on. And then the UFC was like, hey, let's just hold off for a little bit. We got something for you that I think would be really good. And I was like, okay. And then they said Iowa, so I was like, well, that's perfect. I got a lot of wrestlers out there, and a lot of people that want to support. So I'm excited to go. I haven't competed there since college, so it'd be fun to get back into the old. I won't call it stomping grounds, but I spent a little bit of time there.
Of course, yeah. No, obviously Penn is where you belong, but we can't ignore Iowa wrestling, right? Corn-fed, good old boys, Iowa wrestling. I'm sure you will draw a lot of eyes there. And I mean they've added like names like Jeremy Stevens. So it seems like they're really trying to draw out the crowd in that area. Do you see a very full arena in Des Moines?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think anytime you get a UFC event, just the brand that the UFC's built is pretty crazy. So, I'm expecting a sellout, but I think especially with me being there, and I've had so many people reach out telling me that they're coming to the fight, that they want to come and support and watch. And, as you mentioned, guys like Jeremy Stevens on the card, the main event with Sandhagen and Figueiredo is going to be a great fight. So I think that I'm expecting a good crowd, and we'll see. I obviously, like I said, have a lot of history in Iowa, and they weren't the biggest fans of me while I was in school, but I think I'm gonna. We'll see if I get some boos or some cheers, but I'm expecting either way it'll be an exciting, intense environment.
Either way, Bo's getting some butts and seats in Des Moines, Iowa this May. But with people, oh, you got somebody said they're going to be here there. Sean Moody said, I'll be there 6 days before my birthday. Awesome. Awesome.
See you
There's
there, Sean.
We have three teammates on the card, but I want to focus on one specifically, and that's Azamat Bakov, who's also fighting at middleweight. Have you and Azamat got to train a lot? I know he has great wrestling as well.
Yeah, we really haven't trained much together. Obviously spending a lot of time in the same sessions and stuff like that. And I'm really excited for his fight. He's fighting a guy, with a lot of wrestling experience in Ryan Loader, guy that was I believe an All-American, and a tough competed post college as well. So I think that that's going to be a really interesting fight. But yeah, we'll see two guys that are I would say relatively like new to the UFC. So it's exciting to see. I think guys that are coming up, and I'm excited for Azamat. It's a good opportunity for him.
Absolutely. This is a huge moment for you. So obviously, let's focus on your fight. First co-main spot, right? So obviously, you've got DeRitter in front of you this summer, but looking just a little bit past that, would your first main event spot be your next step after that, ideally?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think that something I've realized coming into the sport of MMA, and specifically the UFC, is the more you plan ahead, it just is almost counterproductive, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to beat who, what type of opportunities are going to come up. For me, I've always felt like I bring a lot of excitement and eyes to whatever it is I'm doing. I was able to be the main event in a lot of wrestling matches and wrestling events. And so for me, that's a comfortable spot. And I think that as I continue to progress in my career and get bigger fights and fight better guys, that it's kind of a natural and it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, right now everything's focused on this event May 3rd. It's a good opportunity, as you mentioned. DeRitter, very tough guy, and I'm excited to be in a co-main slot. That's it says a lot to me. This will be my 8th pro fight, and I'm already co-maining UFC card, so that's pretty cool stuff.
Oh, you've received some criticism. Like you brought it up. This is only your 8th professional fight. You've always received this criticism of maybe not having enough experience to get these moments. How would you kind of respond? Because you've had this criticism before the Paul Craig fight, you said afterwards, you were like, well, everybody said I can't strike, so I guess I'm going to strike with Paul Craig. You went through, everybody said I can't go 3 rounds, so I'm going to go 3 rounds with Paul Craig. Now you have a guy like DeRitter in front of you. Is this the perfect opportunity to put all the criticism to bed? A great record, obviously he's got a lot of experience, 19-2, fought some really tough guys at 1, and he is a talented grappler. Is this the opponent that you think will finally silence the haters?
I think that for me, a big priority is always just continuing to build my reputation, and coming into a new sport, I'm starting at ground zero. So to answer your question, I would say that I think that it'll maybe quiet them down a little bit, but I think they'll always be there. Just that's the way that the world works, and that's the way. Anytime you see somebody that's trying to do something great, that's trying to accomplish something that seems very difficult, I think you have people that want to be naysayers and who want to drag you down. And so for me, the focus really is just on continuing to improve and get better at fighting. And so I think that this fight is definitely a massive opportunity for me to continue to build my reputation and show people who I am and what I'm about, and all the hard work that I put in, not only for the last few years of fighting professionally, but for since I was 5 years old, competing in wrestling. And so I think that I just want people to continue to get to know me and who I am. But with that being said, I think there's always going to be people that want to critique and criticize. And I think it has more to do with them and their personal beliefs than it does with me. So, I'm focused on being my best every single day and just taking care of what I can.
Of course. With this, oh snap, it's Bo Nickal. Yes, it is, SG. Join in the comments, guys. If you guys have questions for Bo, I will pick a few at the end. So please drop them in the comment section, and we'll definitely get to you guys as well. But first, let's touch on this matchup against DeRitter. Like you said, this is a step up. This is a good opportunity for you to build that reputation. He is a very talented grappler, just like Paul Craig. Is this another opportunity for you to test your striking without giving away too much of your game plan?
Yeah, I think that I think that the interesting part about the Paul Craig fight was that facing a grappler, you kind of see maybe a couple styles that nullify each other a little bit. So it turned into a striking match. And I think that with DeRitter, that now the main difference is, he now has 15 minutes of film to be able to study me and kind of see what I like to do. So I think that there's a chance he tries to pressure me to get me into more grappling exchanges, because he feels like that's a stronger area for him. And for me, I think that the focus is just continuing to polish every area of my game. And I think that I'm already a more well-rounded fighter than him when I watch the film. And I think that, he has a lot of skills and he does a lot of things really well. But I do too. And I think that there's a lot of positions where, I can exploit some habits that he has that maybe aren't the best. And so wherever the fight goes, I'll be prepared. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind more grappling exchanges in the fight, just because I think that that'll be exciting for me to test myself in a real fight. I've had a lot of tough rounds with really good grapplers, and I've done really well in the gym. But for this fight, I think that I feel confident with the grappling. I feel confident with the striking, and so yeah, wherever the fight goes, for me, it's just looking to continue to be active and get 100% effort the whole time.
Absolutely. With that being said, and you have almost twice as much film to watch on DeRitter as he does on you. Do you feel like that's an advantage, just going into this, that you are able to study his game so much more?
100%. Yeah, I'm a big film study guy. That's something that I've done since I was a little kid with wrestling. I always was watching as much wrestling videos as I could get a hold of, and it's something that is just really born out of like passion and excitement and love for the sport. So I study a ton of film, obviously studying a lot of my opponent, and I pretty much watch every single second of every fight that I've been able to, get my hands on. So I'll continue to go over that, and at the same time, I'm watching film of not only him, but a lot of the guys that I want to emulate out there when I compete. So I'm putting hours in every day watching film, and to me, that's a way that I can maybe make up for the lack of experience. Where a lot of other guys have 2 or 3 times as many fights as me, and if I want to make up for that, I got to be putting in time outside of the gym because we can only train and spar and drill so much in a day.
For me personally, like I'm watching girls like Jessica Andrade, Erin Blanchfield, people that I feel like fit my game. Who you said you're watching these guys that you want to emulate. Who are your absolute like top tier guys that you think fit your fighting style?
There's a lot of guys that I watch, and I try to take little tidbits from each and every person. There's no style where I'm like, that's exactly how I want to fight. But I think that there's certain things that people do really well that I want to add to my game. I would say a guy I watch a lot is John Jones. I just love his creativity and the way he gets to his offense, and also the way he is able to defend and stay safe and fight smart. I think that he's probably one of the most, if not the most intelligent fighter that we've seen in the sport, and so he's a guy I watch a lot. I watch a lot of Yoel Romero because I think that I loved his style as well, with his disposition and demeanor and the kind of like way he controlled fights without even really doing anything, just with like his body language. I think that he's a guy that I study. I study Floyd Mayweather a lot. Study Khabib. So just a lot of guys that I think do things really well at a fundamental level. And then I think that they're also guys that they've mastered the fundamentals. So you get to see the creative side. And that's what I try to do, is just master those fundamentals. And then from there, the more I master them, the more creative I'm able to be.
Absolutely. With you said you're big on this film study. You've been watching a lot of De Ritter. What are some of the biggest holes that you're seeing when you're watching his film?
I think that it's really pretty minute stuff. It's not like, oh wow, there's like a massive hole here. Oh, there's a massive hole there. I think that there's certain situations where he gets a little bit out of position. I think there's certain situations where maybe he relies a little too heavily on his grappling, his jiu-jitsu, which in an MMA fight, the big difference is, you get into a bad position, and now you don't have to worry about getting submitted. You have to worry about getting punched in the face and getting elbowed in the face. And so I think that that's something that even though I have quite a bit less experience than him, I feel more well-rounded in all the areas, right? And I think that the transitions between striking to wrestling, wrestling to grappling, that's where I'll get ahead a lot, because I don't necessarily see him transitioning quite as smoothly as I do.
Gotcha. Absolutely. I want to touch back on this. I know you said De Ritter is number one priority. We talked briefly about what that possible next main event spot would look like. Is there a dream opponent or venue for that first 5-round fight in the UFC?
Yeah, well, I've actually been working on it. So we're talking about potentially after this fight doing a fight in State College in the Bryce Jordan Center. That's where Penn State, where we compete, and it's a big arena, 16, 17,000 seats, and they've done a lot of big events there, but they've never had a UFC event there. So I would be super grateful and excited to compete back in my hometown and to be able to put on a show for the Penn State fans and all the people that I love. When I finished wrestling, I kind of, in my mind, thought that there was never going to be an opportunity again to compete in front of a home crowd. And now when I've brought it up to the UFC and talked with the people at Penn State, that they both want it. And, I think that it's a very realistic thing. So I'm looking forward to making that happen sometime in the near future.
Obviously, you're down here at American Top Team, but you're also back in where your roots are, right? In Penn quite a bit, and you train there and you see all these really talented wrestlers. Who should be on the MMA community's radar that is considering transitioning over that maybe we haven't seen yet?
The guy that you have to watch out for, he was just down here recently getting some work in, is Carter Starachi. So Carter won his 5th NCAA title a few weeks ago in March, and he's going to compete a little bit more in wrestling, but he's talked to me, and we've his plan is to get into the cage fairly soon, and he's done quite a bit of training outside of just the wrestling. Working on his striking, working on his grappling, and so he's a guy that I think that there's no limit to what he's going to be able to do in the sport. And you see what he's accomplished in wrestling is really second to none. And I think that his style fits really well in MMA. He's a very athletic guy. He's a guy that has amazing conditioning. He's super strong. He's one of the smartest wrestlers that I've seen, and he trains as hard as anybody. So he's a guy that I would definitely watch out for. And I think that he's a guy that can take the same trajectory and path as me, a couple fights on the regional scene and then be straight to the big show.
Wow. No, so that was going to be my question, is do you feel like other wrestlers can take that path? Last weekend, we saw a wrestler who I think very highly of get a little bit of hate for the style of fight. Did you get a chance to watch the Torres-Finney fight?
I didn't watch it, but I saw the stats and I saw the significant strikes, and that looked. I think that just when you look at that, I mean, like I said, I didn't watch the fight, so it looks a little rough to go 15 minutes and only land 4 significant strikes. But I think that Torres-Finney is a guy that has a lot of potential, and he's in a similar position to me, where we're just figuring MMA out, and we're trying to learn and grow and get better. And I think that this fight for him is probably nothing but a learning opportunity and an experience, and he was able to do it and get a win, which is really big. A lot of times you have to take a loss in a moment like that to really figure out some stuff and learn and grow. But for him, it says a lot that he was able to get through that and still get his hand raised. So I think that he, like I said, we're in a similar position. We're just trying to figure out the sport and continue to get better.
Absolutely. And we had him on the show once. Awesome guy, phenomenal wrestler, and very young too, very young in the sport. So I love watching a good striker lose to a good wrestler. I'm very biased. I love to see it. So I have very high hopes for him. I think he can absolutely develop into a fantastic fighter. And I want to touch on a couple things before we go. And I am not ignoring you guys in the comments. We'll pull up a couple questions there at the end. But you made some waves during UFC London. And you said the UFC needs to put all the best events at the beginning. We're not sitting through these trash cards. What speak to that just a little bit more, because you had the community up in arms.
Yeah, it was interesting. A lot of people I think misinterpreted what I was trying to say. So the reason that I was motivated to say that was because the NCAA wrestling tournament, which happened, less than a month ago, they actually put Carter, the guy that I was just mentioning, very first on the card. And he was, a senior going for his 5th national title, which has never been done before. So he's going to make history. And for some reason, ESPN decided to put him as the opener of the 10 matches that were scheduled for that night. And I think that, they had their reasons, and I'm sure they could explain them, but I really didn't agree with it. And so I feel like, I was being a little bit facetious, a little sarcastic with those comments, and I wanted to see Carter, go later in the night, so he got his flowers, and they were able to really, gratify the moment. And but if you're doing cards at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., I think everything goes out the window, because that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, and that leads to my next question, which there has been a lot of criticism about some of these UFC events lately, where we've seen people just not feel like the product is still as good as it used to be. We see maybe like a loaded pay-per-view like we have this weekend. Like I can't think of more than maybe one fight that I'm not absolutely ecstatic for at UFC Miami. And then we're seeing some of these fight night cards maybe a little lackluster, with only a handful of really, really great name value matchups on it. Do you agree that the product is not as good, or do you think that there are other issues?
I think it's tough. I think it's a little bit of a mix, because it's tough to put on 50 shows a year and have every single fight be, what the fans would consider a banger, super entertaining fight, right? And I think that there's a lot of really good, tough guys that don't necessarily get the credit and don't necessarily get the attention or the excitement for whatever reason. And I don't know that I could put my finger on it, but I feel like as a fan of the sport, somebody who, I watch tons and tons of fights. I enjoy pretty much, I just enjoy when people go out there and compete with, 100% effort and they really just go for it and they're trying to win. So I think that when I look at the cards that maybe aren't labeled as exciting or as entertaining, it could be the motivation of why the fighter's fighting or whatever it is, but I don't necessarily know why. I think that maybe the perspective of what's entertaining in a fight, and what people want to see, it's hard to always hit the nail on the head and hit the mark from a product perspective, right? Like the expectations only continue to grow, and I think that there's a lot of guys that can put on exciting, entertaining fights that maybe aren't even in the UFC right now, and who are trying to make their way into the UFC. And I think that the more guys that we give opportunities to, the better the product will be. And really, I guess that's my thoughts on it.
So it's interesting to hear you say that. Like this conversation comes up on Fight Bananas all the time, and so what I've kind of settled to is like I would love to see like a year-round contender series where maybe they aren't signing as many guys right off the bat, but they have a really solid group feeder show where they can pluck a fighter from for any short notice opportunity that they might have. And I'd rather see almost less fighters on the roster. Are you of the other mindset? You would rather see them sign more fighters?
I think that they got to sign the right fighters. I think that there's guys that maybe aren't, for whatever reason, being signed and who aren't, being put into the slots that I think deserve it and who should be there. And I think that there are guys who, the idea of like putting a fight together for entertainment is tough because it's not the WWE. It's a real sport. And so it's easy to like, want to put two guys out there who are going to try to knock each other's head off, but you get hit once, you get hit a couple of times, and it's like it's really not that fun. So, the other thing is it's like the UFC, once you get into the UFC, there's a lot of pressure. It's like, man, I gotta win. I gotta win this fight. I gotta go out there and put on my best performance, because if I don't put on a good performance and if I don't win like a couple of those, then I'm out, right? And so I think that people feel a lot of pressure. Fighters feel a lot of pressure coming in to perform a certain way, and I think that makes them a little bit tighter, and then you lose a little bit of the entertainment value when guys aren't competing as well as they could have. And then I think on the other side, as I mentioned, there's certain guys who belong there that maybe aren't getting their shot, and I think that in my mind, the best I guess answer and the best way to solve it is to get the UFC, have the best fighters in the UFC, the best guys around the world, regardless of what's going on. Those guys are the guys that need to get matched up. And I think that if you're not there yet, and you're not ready for that, then, it's good to get experience somewhere else. But I think there are guys that are, I just appreciate talent at the end of the day. Is like, if you're, the entertainment for me is how good you are at fighting. It's not the way that I guess most fans perceive it.
No, 100%. You got the WWE fans in the comments. WWE isn't a real sport.
WWE it's entertainment, and that's, I think that people, they lump MMA in with that, because the companies are, obviously have a lot of overlap and the business structure, and there's, some overlap in the fans. And I think that the reality is, it's like when you're watching WWE, like you're watching a movie, right? It's not, it's scripted, it's set up, and fights, this is real life. So, it's a different thing. And I think that you can't put the highlight movie crazy expectation on a fight, because these are people's lives that are, out there, and it's their livelihood. And I don't know. I like seeing quality, good, talented fighters try to go out there and win a fight. I don't like to see, I think they're just different.
Absolutely. No, and I don't disagree. And it wouldn't be a Fight Bananas show if we didn't bring up Dakota Bush. So adding that to the name of list of guys that should definitely be in the UFC that aren't right now.
Absolutely.
UFC, sign Dakota Bush. Anywho, but I want to focus on one more thing before we open up the comment section. Chimaev has always been on your radar, and it's I love that he is, because he's not the champ right now. So typically a lot of like up and coming prospects are very focused on the champ. And you seem like Chimaev, you just have laser focused vision for this matchup with Chimaev. What is it about him? Is it that you think he will have the strap soon, or is it just the idea of this incredibly big fight that excites you?
I think it's a big fight, so it's exciting. But I also think that, in my opinion, he's just one of the best, if not the best guys in the world. I think he'll be fighting for the title shortly, and he's got a big reputation in the sport. So we both come from grappling backgrounds, and more than anything, I just want to challenge myself, and I think it'd be a fun, exciting fight. So, my goal is to just continue to improve and get better as a fighter, and see how far I can go. And I think that he's a guy that is a big challenge and a big test. So it would be fun to just, see where I stack up and go out there and compete, right? Like I don't compete. I compete because I love it, and I'm motivated, and I want to be the best in the world. So the best guys in the world are the guys that I want to compete against, and I see him as one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenges in front of me.
Love it. So question here from the Fight Bananas YouTube: do you have a pick in Dricus du Plessis versus Chimaev in this matchup that inevitably happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's going to be an amazing fight. Ton of respect for both those guys. I think that they both do a lot of things really well. I think that they both have parts of their game that could use improvement. And I think that I see the fight. I think that early that Chimaev obviously has an advantage. I think as the round goes later, we've seen Chimaev kind of fade and Dricus get stronger. So I think the later rounds favor Dricus. But I think given the situation, the circumstance, and kind of looking at both guys' skills and attributes, I would probably pick Chimaev to win. But it's a very close fight. It's a toss-up. Both guys, I think, are one of the biggest things that both guys have that separates themselves from a lot of other fighters is their belief in themselves. I think that Dricus has like a crazy strong belief that he's going to win. I think Hamzat feels the same way about himself, and that's what makes this fight exciting to me. Is I think both guys. There's not a situation, a lot of times you go into a fight and one guy's kind of defeated. It's like, all right, I know I'm probably not going to win this fight, but I'm going to try. I don't think either guy feels that way in this one. I think both guys expect to win. And when both guys expect to win, that is when the fights are the best, in my opinion.
Love it. Absolutely. So, okay, I'm gonna open up the comment section, guys. I'll pick up. We've already kept Bo for 29 minutes, so I don't want to take up your whole afternoon. We'll do two fan questions, and then we'll let you go, man. Okay, Sean put this in the comment section 3 times, so we'll pull him up. He said, "What do you think about the Illinois wrestling team?"
Illinois had an amazing year. I was super impressed with them. They had a ton of guys that were kind of coming, I won't say out of nowhere, but maybe weren't the most well-known guys in the NCAA towards the beginning of the year, and had amazing showings. I think that their top dog over there, Lucas Bird at 133, was able to win a national championship, and he's their first national champion since probably since Isaiah Martinez in 2016. So their first national champion in a while, and he's a guy that I love watching, and he always goes out there, competes hard from whistle to whistle, and I think that Coach Poeta at Illinois is doing a really great job. So looking forward to seeing them continue to put good teams out on the mat, and yeah, definitely a fan of a lot of those guys.
Awesome. All right. This was a question I would love to hear your answer for. So Joe Pfeiffer is another big middleweight prospect name. He's a New England guy. Could we see a Nickal versus Pfeiffer matchup in Philly? Is he on your radar at all?
I mean, I think that that could be a good matchup potentially down the line. Joe's a guy that he's incredibly talented, hits super hard, has great grappling, and he's got a lot of really impressive skills and has had a bunch of really impressive finishes in the UFC already. And so, I think down the line, that's definitely a matchup that could be a lot of fun. And it's almost like um, we kind of are very similar. Like we have a similar look. Um, Similar excitement and hype. It's like he's almost like the evil version of me, or maybe I'm the good version of him. I don't know. Either way, but yeah, I think down the line that could be a fun fight.
That's always great when two guys that look like each other fight each other, and the fight posters are like, make
Yeah,
sure you
right.
make a double take. So hey, maybe a Penn State arena main event. Joe Pyfer, Bo Nickal,
That'd be
UFC.
fun.
We would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we've taken up 30 minutes of your time. Don't want to hold you up to for the rest of the afternoon. But is there anything else you wanted to say? Let the people know where to follow you, all that jazz.
Yeah. First off, thanks, Elle, for having me on. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. It's always fun chatting with you. I think that, yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter. I have a YouTube channel. We do podcasts as well. It's called Nickels and Dimes. So I talk with a lot of different wrestlers and combat athletes. And, just that's where you can catch me. And then, yeah, May 3rd, Des Moines, Iowa. It's going to be a fun one. So make sure to watch that one.
Absolutely. We will be tuned in. Odd Smoker does some awesome graphics for us. So hey, Odd Smoker, maybe a Joe Pyfer, Bo Nickal fight poster. Let's see if they look like each other.
Cut our faces right in half. Yeah.
See if you split them in half if it looks like the same person. But awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Bo. Guys, May 3rd, Des Moines, Iowa. Bo Nickal's very first co-main event spot against Rainier de Ritter. So super looking forward to watching fight, man. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Tune in later this week.